Y'all, I'm excited for tonight. I I just wrapped up with Foundation First Marketing, going live over there. It's a brand new channel, and we talk all marketing, branding, business strategy, specifically for folks in the trades. But we also expand. Honestly, so much of it is applicable, regardless if you have any kind of local business, but also just any business in general. It's really applicable on the brand marketing side and just business strategy. So was just live there. It is late at 12:31 Eastern time, and y'all, I'm feeling excited about tonight. I'm feeling excited because, oh man, I just got chills. Okay, so the last 2 months have probably been two of the most rather chaotic months that I've had in a long time, and it just has felt destabilizing in some ways. Even just this past week, that like everything that I was counting on in terms of, a business lunch and then an event and all the little things, even as small as, which it's not a small deal, but even as small as my niece, she started a little nonprofit, and we were all set up to go to this retirement home. It's called Caring Crafts and Cookies. And we bring cookies, and she makes cookies and crafts and brings them to the retirement communities in the local area. And we sing for them. It's just like the most pure and wonderful thing. And I'm so inspired by her, so proud of her. But even that, we showed up and we weren't on the schedule. And so that was another lesson of, okay, make sure we call in advance to confirm. And everything it has felt for the last probably week has gone wrong in some way. And it hasn't felt chaotic internally. It's been more so kind of, I told someone tonight, I feel like I'm almost like an observer of my life right now. Like everything is happening and it's completely out of control. Even an event, I flew into town for an event and it got canceled, and it was a 2-day event, and they refunded everybody their money. And it was just, I've never had that happen actually, where I was registered for an event and it canceled. So there's been so much outside of control. And, I was in the airport earlier today, and I knew I was tired. I did the knowing intensive this weekend, and it was with a couple. And anytime I do a knowing retreat or a knowing intensive, I definitely am more so depleted. So I knew I was kind of running on low energy. And then come to find out the lunch today was canceled, and it was just like, all right, I am just watching life happen. And I had a moment today that was so clarifying in the airport. And it really, man, in these moments when life feels so out of control and we do feel like observers in our own life, that usually means that there is something to observe. And so I've been kind of waiting for what that lesson is. And, I've been mindful, like, am I going to not know what this lesson is until years from now? Is it just going to be hindsight is 2020, or will I actually realize the lesson when it happens? And when it happened today, I just kind of sat with it and really leaned into it. And even as I was prepping for the show tonight, I was like, this is huge. So what the lesson is has so much to do with our topic for tonight, why your energy should be protected. And I didn't say at all costs, but it needs to be protected. It is so incredibly precious. And here's why. So I was at the airport going through security. It's on the heels of just a lot of chaos and just a lot of external craze over the last couple of weeks, but also compounded over 2 months of just kind of feeling unstable. And y'all, TSA Pre has the power, or TSA, the TSA agents have the power to make your day or to break your day. I don't know if any of you have experienced that, but man, I was standing there experiencing this TSA agent. And I really was going back and forth with myself internally, like, okay, I want to love him. I don't want to be irritated by little things. And it was frustrating. And by the end of it, we threw something away, and it's not that big of a deal. But the thing is that when we're already on really low energy, and we'll get to kind of the definition of energy in a moment, but when we're low energy, people really, man, we're thin. It's like we have, I had this thought a couple months ago of effectively, like, think of you and I in the nucleus. You and I, that's how our internal state is. And then there's the external world. Well, however much padding is in between you and I and the external world, where the external world can make any little move, make any little, it immediately impacts our nucleus and we're triggered. It's like the spark, right? Spark between flint and stone. And so we're the flint and then the external world is the stone. And one little thing can, man, set us off and trigger us. And then there's a spark. But if we have a lot of padding around our nucleus, our flint is safe and the stone is not as quick to ignite us and get us activated and get us angry. Well, when our energy is low, and again, we'll get to the definition of that in a minute, but when our energy is low, our padding just decreases little by little by little. And effectively, we've got little buffer to protect us from the stone kind of compressing and putting pressure on us. And then we activate that much faster. So our energy is so incredibly important. So I'm standing there having this moment with this TSA agent. You know, he's literally doing his job and it's annoying. And I actually asked him, I was like, you know, how often are you guys, you know, running into real problems? Because I wanted to have understanding for his job. And I know that they're here for a reason. And he said, you know, every week or so they find a gun. They found missile launchers one time. And so it was really helpful to have this perspective shift. But as I was still feeling frustrated, just having to throw this thing away, not a big deal again. But I don't want to be it's my ideal. I don't want to get annoyed at little things like that. I want to have better padding and more of a buffer. And I know why I haven't had that kind of buffer over the last couple of days. And still, I need to deal with what is coming up for me right now. Otherwise, it's going to sit and it's going to simmer. And then someone else is going to come up and do something that's annoying. And I'm going to get triggered again. And so I'm like, okay, where can I go and kind of sit with this frustration just so I can move through it, get rid of it, be done, and move through the emotion. I've heard somebody liken emotions as through a tunnel. We have to move through them to get to the other side or else they're suppressed. So I show up to Silver Diner. God bless Silver Diner in Baltimore Airport. And so I walk in and the woman takes me to my table and she is moving slow. And I'm like, man, I really am on edge right now. And I just was, again, kind of observing how my emotional state was. It was easy to activate me. And so I sat down and I was like, okay, what is the cost of that $15 item that got thrown away? Is that worth 15 minutes of emotional frustration? Is it worth 20 minutes? The whole afternoon? See, moments like that can ruin the entire flight, the entire rest of your day. It makes you pissy. It makes you on edge. And I was like, I just had this realization. Our energy, if it's wrapped up with other people, there's a return. So whatever we give our emotion to, there's a return. So we talk about return on investment in business, where whatever we're putting out, there's a return on it. So whatever I am choosing to care about emotionally, there is a return on that emotion. And so I was putting my emotion towards this item that had to get thrown away, $15 item. I knew how much it was on Amazon. I had it right there. And I was like, do I check it or do I, what do I do? And $15, but I want to value money. And so I don't want to just easily throw things away. And so at that moment though, here was the big lesson for me. And this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Every single emotion that we experience and we let ourselves feel effectively is always going to have a return. There's a return on our investment. There is a return on our emotion. At every time, at every turn. And so if we're not so careful and intentional about what emotions we're feeding and what thoughts we're feeding, we've been talking about that in the morning show, A Course in Miracles. There is no neutral thought. There is no neutral emotion. So whatever we're allowing to gestate, permeate, percolate inside of us is going to have a return. And that return is probably going to not just impact us. It's going to impact the people we're around. It's going to impact, like, for example, that woman that was walking very leisurely to take me to the table, and she was facing, and she had no idea. I was thinking, it was all internal for me where I just was like, wow, I'm really activated right now. But it was because of the TSA guy. And it wasn't even the TSA guy. It was the lunch that got canceled. And it wasn't the lunch that got canceled. It was the morning before. And it wasn't the morning before. It was the day before. Y'all, everything compounds on itself until we take the time to move through it and also take the time to recharge. So when we're talking about not just emotion has a return on itself, but energy does. When I talk about energy, so I want to define that right now. Energy has, I'm going to say 4 different forms right now, just for context, just for clarity. Every single one of our intelligences holds a numerical value to it. I learned from David Hawkins in his book, Letting Go, that each emotion has a numerical value. Each one has an energy to it. And when people talk about frequency and energy, I'm kind of like, what do you mean? It was only when I read David Hawkins' book where it all started making sense. So effectively, there are levels from level 20 to 600 that you and I fluctuate between depending on what emotion we're feeling. So I think shame is level 20, whereas peace is 600. And then there's so much range in between there. And you can see it. You can see, and the numbers get lower. With shame, people are kind of small and meek and hidden and shrouded in their shame. Whereas somebody who's peaceful is light and beautiful, and people want to be around you, and their presence is all encompassing. And you're like, man, I actually feel like you're bringing peace into my home. And so the same type of numerical value system also can be talked about with our physical energy. Because y'all, when we're exhausted, man, it's like, don't even talk to me. I'm going to exist here. Don't look at me. Like that's how so many of us can get to the point when we're just at the point of exhaustion. But then, man, when we've got full sleep, full recovery, our body feels great. We're like big. We have a bigger presence. There's a bigger energy. And same intellectually, when I'm doing my job of studying, of learning, of getting vertically aligned, I have so much more to give intellectually, and same spiritually. How much energy are we able to put out into the world based on what we're cultivating internally in each category of our intelligences? So each intelligence holds an energy. And depending on the strength or weakness of how we're doing in each category, that will be the degree of our energy. And so as we're talking about each one of these returns, there's a return on our energy of what we're putting out. And so this question expands massively. What's the energy that is getting returned at work? What's the energy we're putting out that we're getting the return at home? When you think about children, they don't just want parents to be intellectually present. They want their physical energy. It's not just, if you're 3 years old, you don't want your dad to be intellectually energetic with you of like, I'm going to ask you really thoughtful questions as a 3-year-old. It's like, no, I just want to play, And so even honestly, it was really sweet this weekend. I got to go sledding with my niece. And honestly, I was walking up the little hill, the snowy hill, and like my cheeks were flushed. And I was like, I cannot remember the last time my cheeks were flushed from playing outside. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so wonderful. And y'all, the physical energy necessary to do that is very different from the emotional energy required to do that. And so once we start looking at ourselves and what our inputs are, again, that information processing system, and then the outputs on an energetic basis, we will always get a return. And y'all, this is something that I thought about, the currency, like emotional currency. I thought of that a couple years ago, but I feel like this is a whole new dimension and a whole new scope surrounding the depth and dimension of the energy that we put out, and there's always a return. And so going back to that moment with TSA, what I was putting out to that TSA agent, and not even to the agent, but like to the product, I was carrying this item that $15 was not an equal exchange for the amount of energy, emotional energy that I was putting towards wanting to spare the product. And like, do I argue with him? Do I go out? And then it's a question of physical energy expenditure. So there's always an exchange happening. There's always a return. And at what point is what we're expending 1 degree of energy and 1 level of intelligence, does it warrant these others? Okay, I'm going to jump into the chat. This has been so much fun. Y'all, hello. Good evening. I'm so glad to be here with you. Brian, good to see you. SMS, I would love that. Would you like to hear a quote that will make your day better than you made mine. I would love that. Thanks for joining. Michi Williams, thank you. I'm so glad you're here. Corn dogs. Yes, we are live. These are very, very interesting comments here in the chat. Oh my gosh, Android channel. We are live tonight. Thank you for coming. Steve Grady, we're live. Brian, thanks for actually dropping in something meaningful. The only thing that you can control is the quality you produce. Focuses on the end product. Focus on the end product. It's not the cost, it's the principle. 𝐤𝐸𝐸𝐞𝐤, 𝐤𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐞. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for saying that. Wow. Real life home revealed. I got fired yesterday from a complaint. How to recover. 𝐤𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐞 says that could have been the best thing that has happened to you. Wow. 𝐤𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐞 definitely ain't the worst. Man, that's hard. Real life home revealed. How are you doing? I don't know if you're still here, but that's hard to get fired. So I'm really sorry. And I love 𝐤𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐞. I love that's your perspective. You know, there's such a difference. Talk about being an observer of your life where things are happening to you. It's really, really curious when we start moving into that question of, oh, how is this for me? And just having that predisposition when things happen, it's like, okay, I trust that this is for me. I'm curious how this is for me. And at the same time, when everything keeps going wrong, it's like, give yourself time to move through the emotion that's there. Oh my gosh. 𝐸𝐴𝐸𝐸𝐸, thank you. Thank you for joining. Happy Paps. It is much more efficient to say y'all than you all. It takes less time. The speed at which you can say y'all versus you all. So I choose to say y'all, and it's fun. Brian, human energy is the capacity for physical, mental, and emotional activity, often defined as stamina, vitality, or the juice to engage in life. I love that. It's funny. I never thought about the energy of each intelligence and how each one dwindles and wanes as a result of the cultivation thereof or lack thereof, right? And so I love that you say that. Frankly, I wasn't thinking that way before, so I love that you have that perspective. Danger Man, can you explain the basis of what you do for beginners? That's such a good question. What I do professionally is I help businesses and individuals know who they are. Because in order for us to put out anything into the world, we have to know what's going on internally, whether it's inside the organization or inside the individual. And once we know who we are as a company or as an individual, then we can begin by creating effectively the external impact, whether that's a service, whether that's interacting with your partner or your family, whether that's building a business, whatever the external manifestation of that is, and the impact of that is based on what you are called to do. And I actually believe a business can have a very unique, specific vision and mission. All of it is predicated on a dream and on a mission. Whether we realize it or not, everything we're doing is in reaction to something. Even if it's a reaction to what our competitors are doing, or if it's reaction to this mission or this vision that we hold. So now, granted, when it's our own, by our own design that we're reacting to that, then there's almost more like of a proaction at the very beginning, proactivity at the beginning that sets the target. And then effectively we're reacting to that goal that we set forth. How did I do? Was that good? Real life's home revealed. Tell us how you're doing. Alex, all good. You say you got to understand you have no control over your life. I'm really curious. I think that we do in some ways, but not the ways that we think. I honestly, I bring up God bless Viktor Frankl. I bring him up almost every show. You know, he talked about that the greatest of all human freedoms is choice, is that we get to choose our response. Like, okay, well, we can't control the stimuli, yet my perspective can change entirely the landscape of all that is external in so many ways, right? Alchemy in and of itself is an example of that. And the scientific process, or, you know, I'm not going to pretend to be scientific in any way, trust me, but the process of alchemy is to turn lead into gold. And that's effectively the concept of taking something that feels bleak, or like even honestly, real life home revealed, you know, you get the choice of how to respond. And you also get the choice to create alchemy. You know, creation and choice are ours. And so that's the question of how then will I live? You know, I think that question, how then will I live, that's actually how I open my book. And my book's not done yet. God bless this book. Viktor Frankl has made such an impact. I'm like, man, if I could ever make any kind of impact close to what he did, that would just be amazing. But in knowing, you know, in the introduction, I set the stage for, you know, when my life fell apart, the question is, okay, how then will I live? Now that this has happened, what then? How then will I take the next step? What is the next step? And I get to control my response, and I get to choose my choice. You know, even I get to choose my choice. It's funny, that line actually comes from one of my favorite songs. Gabe has returned. I'm so glad you're here. That's a line from one of my favorite songs, and they say in that song later on, I think it's like the bridge goes, I want to live this one wild life, I want to rip it apart. And that's how I want to live. So for so long, I had been living on default, on autopilot, in reaction to everyone around me. And now, how then will I live? It's like, okay, well, I'm going to react to what's inside. I'm going to react to what I hear from the Lord, from God. I'm going to react to what I hear from my own intuition and who I am, who was I uniquely created to be. And then that's how I'm going to live. I'm going to live in reaction and in response, and also being proactive to what I feel compelled and called to. Now, there's only so much I can control in that, but I get to choose what's next in so many ways. Alex Allgood says, so you can change what you think, not what happens. So this is where I'm curious. And I really want to hear your thoughts on this, because frankly, I feel I'm early in this study. This has been coming up a lot over the last couple of weeks. And frankly, for the last probably 9 months, but I haven't really leaned into it, and I'm just starting to. Our thoughts so much of the time project our experience. So maybe there's a physical something that happens, but man, I've seen this happen where people, I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand how it works, but what I do know is that our thoughts do have way more power than we realize. I do believe that. Psychology and physics are two sides of the same coin. Yes. Yeah. Yes. I'm so glad you said that. And frankly, I don't understand it, but I've experienced it myself. I've watched it happen, where when people are mentally expectant and speaking forth certain things, it's a law of attraction. So again, I know things happen, but I also have seen us almost like call forth that opportunity. So I'm really curious to hear what you think. Again, I just said I will never claim to be a scientist by any means. So I feel like I've got to have probably more of a scientific education in that regard. But I would love to learn more, because I think that that's such a fascinating topic. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. And I really believe it's possible. Archibald, thank you. It's funny. Okay, I got to tell you, it's probably the light that makes my teeth look really white, because it's a white light. So if I change, I'm just going to do it. If I change well, that just makes it more white. Holy, watch out. Never mind. I'll just leave it as it was. It's funny. I don't know why, but he just said I had really white teeth. It's a shift from materialism to phenomenology. I actually don't know what phenomenology is. We are powerful creators. Most of us are just creating the past over and over again. Yes. I did feel like there was going to be a huge change, but sheesh, dude. This is okay, so guys, this is another example of kind of like us creating the choice to come on here, every single one of us, the conversation that we're having tonight, and real life home revealed. Like, this whole conversation could very well be for you. You know, there's been conversations in the past where one gentleman, and I'm trying to remember, I don't know if I saved that conversation, but he was really grieving his girlfriend passing away. They'd been together for, I think, like 20 years, and they had kids. And so we spent that whole conversation talking about grief. And so that's part of the Knowing Show is even if we only have a couple folks here in the chat, even if it's not major, massive, tons of people, I'd rather have meaningful, impactful conversations where we can all feel contributing to it, but then also feel impacted by it. Each one of us has something to give. Each one of us has something to receive. I receive every single day on this show. And thanks to people like Brian, Brian, you show up on a daily basis, and it's so meaningful to hear from you, and you have so much wisdom and tension driven. Like, what you're saying here is so good. And real life home revealed, we wouldn't have this conversation apart from your vulnerability. And so Alex Allgood, like, the challenge that you're bringing in, like, well, but what about not being able to create, or not being able to attract? Things just happen, and then we end up getting to that your brilliant statement of there's two sides of the coin. Physics and psychology, like, literally mind-blowing. Y'all, this is what community, I really believe, is supposed to be like. And I'll be daring, because I know that we all may have very different beliefs on a spiritual level, but the concept so I grew up very Christian conservative, and I've been on this whole journey of really coming to experience a relationship with God where it's not about religion at all. And in the last couple of years, I feel like I've just been learning more about what the concept of church was supposed to be. And I'm like, dude, we're having church now. Like, we're a community of people who are really believing for and fighting for and pursuing truth, capital T, truth and love. And like, how do we be better? How do we actually change at a molecular level so that we can have a change externally? But first, we have to create something new out there. We have to be new. And so it's just a really, James Hicks. I'm so happy to see you. Oh, this made me so happy. I'm so glad you're here. Y'all, go follow James Hicks. He's wonderful. He's such an incredible human. I think you're coming on the show in a couple weeks, aren't you? I think so. Or at least I have been wanting you to. You're not, but I think you are. Yeah, y'all, like, this is church. These conversations right here, right now, 1 a.m. Eastern, these conversations, when we really can, it's almost like an unveiling of ourselves. And there is something that's a little bit more safe when we're not really seen, like literally physically seen. But man, I feel like it's a sacred place, like this group, this chat. And so I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful for each one of you. And I'm so grateful for the vulnerability, life, real life home revealed. I'm so grateful that you shared that. And you know what? I'm really excited for you. I'm really, really excited for you on the other side of the job loss. Like, we're also entering an era. Like, there is so much change happening. Do you mind me asking what the job was that you lost? Yay, James Heck. Yeah, I'll be back to hang out with you. I'm so excited. Yay. This is why synchronicities are so important. Patrick Rose, up, playa. I love that. Tension driven. Good night. Thank you so much for joining. Patrick Rowe, right back at you. Let's go. I love it. Go read some Jung. I haven't read hardly any Jung. I need to do that. Real life home revealed. Tell us what you did. And I'm gonna have to go in a few minutes to go to sleep. But tell us what you did. And honestly, if we can support you in any way, I think all of us would want to know that. If you're up for it, I'll just give you a second because I think the chat's delayed. But yeah, would love to hear. 𝐸𝐴N Oh no. I'm so glad you're here. Um, Carl Jung was on it. Yes. I know so much of like his quotes and theories, but I've never actually started. He wrote, what was the book? Man's Search of the Soul, or something kind of like Man's Search for Meaning, but it wasn't actually. Burka, such a character. Villain. Oh my. I did play the White Witch in high school. I schedule and upsell preventative care packages. The call was supposed to be a customer service call. I tried to help. Ugh, I'm so sorry. That's so frustrating. I'm assuming that it's permanent, the the role, but I'd love to know, what would actually be really life-giving for you if you were going to switch careers even. Like, what would you love to do? And maybe that's more of a hobby, but I just wonder, like, what is this going to give you? And hopefully they gave you some kind of severance package or something like that. But yeah, y'all, I would say for anyone who has spare time, learn AI. Like, seriously, learn how to vibe code. That's going to be really, really helpful. Who knows where the world's going to go, but I think learning to vibe code, if you want a really good application, Lovable is really good. So anyways, was a skater back in the day. I don't remember. I don't know. I'll Google it. Y'all, I'm going to go to bed. I'm so sleepy, but I'm so glad that we had this conversation. And honestly, how freaking cool that we have return on our energy. Return on energy. I just love that concept. We talk about return on investment, but we get return on energy. Depending on what we put out, we get it back in so many ways. And so the question is, who do we want to be? And then stop putting out that energy, And there's something around, like, yes, we have to move through it, but also we get to decide, I'm done acting that way or being that way. Patrick Rowe, I would love to retire. Man, it's funny. I'm like, I on the days where I'm feeling exhausted, I'm feeling that way too. Right now, I would like to retire to bed. Oh man, that's why they want the mental world on a digital platform. Oof. Y'all, thank you so much. Real Life Home Revealed. I'm so glad that you came. 𝐸𝐴N, good night. Y'all, for those of you who are interested, we're going to be doing trivia tomorrow night. So many of our conversations are, frankly, I could like talk all night and just go deep and get to know everybody. But tomorrow night, we're going to have a fun night. We're going to do trivia at 9 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do 80s music. So I'm going to be creating trivia tomorrow, and we're going to have so much fun. And it's probably going to be a little bit of trial and error, and that's okay. But subscribe. Brian C. always reminds me, thank you. I never ask people to subscribe. Please subscribe. I would love to have you join us tomorrow. We're going to be playing trivia. And then tomorrow morning, we'll be going live at, I will wake up. 8:30 a.m. I'm 2 hours behind you. I will wake up. We'll do 6:30 my time. We'll go live for A Course in Miracles. All right, y'all. See you tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Eastern, and then again at 9 p.m. Eastern for some trivia. Thank you, Brian. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Woohoo. All right. Good night, y'all.